It's two kind of white people. It's white people that love me and want everything to be fair, and then there's John Brown. So which one are you? It's that simple. I don't think you don't like me or you hate me, but are you willing to be John Brown for me?
Hey, what it do? This your partner Anpu, aka the Union Soldier, man. I want to have some real conversation with you real fast. Salute to Killer Mike. Salute to this whole The Breakfast Club. That interview was crazy, phenomenal. Killer Mike dropped some game. So I played that clip because he's absolutely correct. That there are two ideologies, okay, that run this entire world, either good or evil, but inside of the soil of the United States of America, on this soil, it's either Confederate or Union, and we got to cut the bullshit. So when Killer Mike is talking about either these two type of white people, I'm like, oh yeah, we about to get into it. And he hit you with that John Brown, that abolitionist talk, you know what I'm saying? That needs to be looked at because there were white folks who banged and lost their life to get us free. So we got to understand that our worst state is called slavery, and our best state right now, freedom. Bob Back the Block, shout out to Ross, Diddy, Jay, Nas, Billy's, Khaled. You understand where we at right now to where we were? It ain't no comparison, man. So there's a spirit of freedom that is riding here. This place is all about the freedom. And we free. Now you're gonna have some sucker ass niggas, I just gotta keep it real, that's gonna say, man, we ain't free. And that's a philosophical thing in a sense, but it's some sucker stuff to say in comparison to chattel slavery. Okay? So that's a whole nother conversation. So when Killer Mike is talking about John Brown, let's look at that. Who is John Brown? Abolitionist that says, listen, the only way slaves gonna get free, I'm gonna have to pick up a gun and we're gonna have to go bang on these slaveholders. We're gonna have to go bang on them, period. We gotta shoot them. We're gonna have to kill them. That's his mindset. So he's known for engaging inside of Bleeding Kansas. Now, Bleeding Kansas is the Civil War before the Civil War. I'm going to tell you this. I say it all the time. Please put down The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Put it down. You're not no Chinese philosopher. You need to understand the spirit of what I present, or what I like to call the art of civil war, which got us free. We got to understand that, okay? So 1854 is Bleeding Kansas. Kansas, at this time, the Kansas-Nebraska Act is passed, 1854, and they say, hey, basically, we about to allow slaves in Kansas and the Nebraska territory. This overturns a previous law called the Missouri Compromise of 1819-1820. The Missouri Compromise says, hey, Missouri wanted to come in the Union as a slave state. Now, you got to watch the spirit because it's either two sides on this thing. You either down with the Confederates or you down with the Union. So, Missouri says, hey, I want to come into the Union as a slave state. So, the Union fought back and said, I tell you what, you know that eastern portion of Massachusetts? We're going to call that Maine. Maine is going to come in as a free state. Because at the time, it was 11 free, 11 slaves. So if Missouri come in, it's going to upset the balance. So the compromise is we gotta create and bring in another free state. So that tells you that somebody is working on your behalf within government. Hello, I got to say this shit, man. Because ain't nobody saying this shit. And y'all aiming y'all shit at the wrong person. I got to be very clear, at the wrong entity. Okay? So I'm going to have to step up on behalf of the United States of America and Abraham Lincoln. I got to do that, okay? Now, but they ain't 100% off the hook. Abe good. United States of America is not, and I'm going to get into that. Now, somebody's working on our behalf inside of the country that said, okay, Missouri, come in as a slave if you want to, slave state. We about to bring in Maine to bring in the balance. They're going to be a free state. This is chess. This is on the record. So then years later, it also in the Missouri Compromise, they said no slaves will be allowed above, 36 degrees north latitude. Okay, this is a fact. Somebody's coming in with the ideology and said, man, this slavery shit's some bullshit. It ain't going up no further north than this, and it ain't going out to the Western Territories west of the Mississippi River. Okay? 1854 come Kansas-Nebraska Act. They like, listen, man, that's unconstitutional. The United States of America, you have no right telling the state that they can't have slaves. States can decide for themselves what they want to do. So then they try to bring in slaves. And so now this creates a serious war. So at this time, the two opponents are the ones who want slavery are called border ruffians. And the ones who are against slavery are called Jayhawkers, hence the term in the basketball team, the Kansas Jayhawks. The Jayhawkers are John Brown. The Jayhawkers are Colonel James Montgomery from Ohio who rode with Harriet Tubman and was giving her pistols and going to put this work in. Okay? So you had a pre-Civil War in 1854 that lasts for 7 years, 1861, which is the start of the Civil War. Now here's the thing. Killer Mike mentioned John Brown. This is a fact. John Brown is fighting on behalf of us, our family, our ancestors, okay? Now, when you go read and figure out who was present at the hanging of John Brown, because they called him and they killed him, because he went, at that time, the Civil War hadn't started yet, 1859. Harper's Ferry raid, they go take over the United States government shit at that time, right? Stonewall Jackson, who later becomes pretty much the second most important general on the Confederate side in the Civil War, okay? He's one of the people that's etched on Stone Mountain, Stonewall Jackson, okay? He's there, and guess who else sneaks his ass up inside of there? Steals a uniform to be present to watch the hanging of John Brown. The guy who kills Abraham Lincoln, okay? Facts. Facts, man. John Wilkes Booth. Confederates. These are facts. And so, this is 1859. In 2 years, 1861, is about to be the kickoff of the Civil War, okay? Now, this is where I got to come in. Black History Month. Salute to my President, Chief and Staff, Abraham Lincoln. Black folks are the only suckers that argue the legitimacy of Abraham Lincoln's contribution, and it is wrong. And it explains the sickness mentally that we have, okay? But it's absolutely wrong because everybody in the world truly understands and give Abraham Lincoln the most successful president, one of the best humans to ever walk the earth. Abraham Lincoln is only second to Jesus Christ, man. Seriously. In world history. Seriously. Real talk. He's that great. You got to really look at the spirit of this shit. Right? Like this guy, they call it the rule of 41, when you have a quarter, a dime, and a nickel, which would be 40 cents, and they're all on a silver coin, and they're facing this way, and Abraham Lincoln is on the penny, and he's facing the other way. And yeah, but why it got to be worth a penny? And we start finding little mental sicknesses to justify suffering and why it's not right. But God darn it, this man is on the coin to represent the copper-colored people. Nobody had to do that. But it's real. Harriet Tubman is getting on a $20 bill. It's real. And we have find a way to discredit it, which is a sickness. So anyway, coming back, Abe Lincoln was cold, man. And I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something what niggas do, and I'm gonna tear y'all up when y'all do it. Niggas like to discredit Abraham Lincoln, and the only thing they're gonna do is they're gonna run to two places. They're gonna run to the Stephen Douglas debates of 1858, right, 2 years before the election, and they're gonna find little quotes of Abraham Lincoln saying things like, "I'm not for racial equality and trying to make the black race the equal of white men." They'll say things like that, but they won't read it in full context, where Abraham Lincoln will come right behind that and say, but there's no reason why the African race or the black race cannot enjoy the same liberties as white men. It's like a sword, a double-edged sword. Okay, even Frederick Douglass didn't even understand that about Abraham Lincoln. until Lincoln pretty much kind of put him in his place and told him, I ain't never said nothing that I retracted from. It ain't true. And Douglas had to think about it like, well, you're right. You did. Because this man was an attorney and he was playing games of semantics with people. Here's the question. In warfare, nobody wants to go to war. Black folks, listen, man, Detroit police can kick in the door, shoot a little girl, baby Ayanna, rest in peace, and then lie and say the mother grabbed the gun and be found guilty, or be found out that the mother's handprints are not even on the officer's weapon. The officer lying his ass off. You ain't going to war over that, man. You ain't going to war over Mike Brown. You ain't going to war over shit. Let's just keep it 100, and rightfully so. And I'm gonna tell you something. Your ancestors was like that too in slavery. They weren't going to war. Clearly, they was not going to war. Let's be real. In the history of the United States of America, black folks didn't get free because all of us was Nat Turner and Denmark Vesey and Harriet Tubman, and we led a successful slave rebellion like Haiti. We didn't do that. White people stepped in and came and got us out of that situation. And motherfuckers hate to admit that shit, and I don't know why. But when you fail to admit it, you are sick and you are a liar. And I just got to call it for what it is. Because I grew up listening to that kind of shit and believing that kind of shit, and it had me all misconstrued until I figured this shit out. All right? So, saying that to say this. United States of America. Get off aid. Because the second place they're going to go is to a letter that Abraham Lincoln wrote to Horace Greeley. And Abraham Lincoln, in one sentence, says, you know, if I could save the Union and not save one slave, I would do it. And he said, see, this was all about him saving the Union and not freeing black folks. And in the very next sentence, he said, and if I could save the Union by freeing all of the slaves, I would do it. And it baffles me because it's literally the next sentence and people choose to take one portion of the sentence. But you can just look at the man's action and see what happened. Okay? Now, Spirit is telling me to tell y'all, there were 2 war generals from the Union Army who actually issued emancipations, the freeing of slaves, before Abraham Lincoln did it as president. Okay? But that's a whole nother story. I'll say that, but just know that. Okay? So people would like to try to go run and pick on Abe, but here's the thing, and this was the question I was asking y'all. This is war. So before you go to war, how do you convince your neighbors to go to war? Like, really rewind time. You in racist ass United States of America at that time, because there's a new government that came in. George Washington and the founding fathers like Abraham Lincoln argued was against slavery. The Declaration of Independence was Abraham Lincoln's foundation and cornerstone to prove that slavery is bogus, and the founding fathers went with that shit. And what a coincidence, George Washington and some of them as well started emancipating their slaves. Okay? Now, United States of America, okay? Got to be very clear about this. United States of America, at this time, racist, got racist South. Illinois is even super duper racist, especially Southern Illinois. Okay? Super duper racist. Can't even bring free black people into Illinois. If you got found bringing black people into Illinois with the purpose of trying to free them, you would be held in trouble. Like, it was against state law for black folks to be in Illinois at one time. Like, Illinois was vicious, okay? And so how do you convince your northern neighbors, like, hey, I think we need to all go down south and shoot other white people? How do you convince white people down south that may not be for slavery and they're against it, if that even exists, to say, hey, I'm going to need you to pick up a gun and bang on your family member and your longtime friends because this is immoral? How do you pull that off? You can't pull it off. So what happened was the racial tension was so thick over slavery and through the form of debate, Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas, and the new Republican Party, the new party that came, all right, the Republican Party was created to counter slavery. I'm not saying be a Republican. I'm just telling you the history. Okay? I got a little spirit with this stuff, man. Because even the vice president for Abraham Lincoln is Hannibal. Hannibal, you know, is an African war general, man. This shit is spirit. I'm trying to tell you. You know Hannibal is an African war general from Africa, But at the bottom of Illinois, they call all southern Illinois Little Egypt. Okay? So you got to understand how this shit comes overseas and it's really talking about you right now. Okay? Anyway, and so United States is thick. It's hard for you to convince somebody. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to stir the pot through dialogue and intense debate and principle of morality. Abraham Lincoln is standing on that square talking about this shit is bogus, it's wrong, slavery. So he wins the election. South Carolina was like, hey man, this nigga's serious. Abraham Lincoln's serious. I ain't got time to even stick around and try to fuck with this dude. Slavery about to be gone. Fucking with him. I know his viewpoint. And you start checking the records on Abraham Lincoln against slavery, oh, you're gonna find some shit. Slavery's disgusting. I hate it. As much as any other abolitionist hates it. He can't stand it. Okay? So South Carolina said, I tell you what, we're going to get on up out of here. We're going to leave and we're going to start our own thing. This is called the Battle of Fort Sumter, April of 61. So they see a merchant ship in the port in Charleston at Fort Sumter called the Star. The Stars is important. The Star of the West. And they like, yo, that's the United States boat right there. Fuck that. Let's shoot this motherfucker up. And they start shooting. Pop, 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 pop. They shooting it up. United States government gets hit first. This is chess. So now, United States government is in the form of has to play defense, which is exactly what Abe needed you stupid ass Confederates to do. See, my tension is with Confederates, man. My shit is against Confederates. Stone Mountain, General Robert Lee, which, by the way, was leading the fight against John Brown that Killer Mike shot out, okay? Go look into it. General Robert Lee, head of the Confederate Army, Stonewall Jackson, his lieutenant in charge, basically, and Confederate President Jefferson Davis are the three men Confederates on Stone Mountain. But you gotta understand, y'all niggas be cracking me up, man. Y'all be swearing up and down y'all love Tupac, but y'all forgot 2 cops got shot while they off duty. My nigga Tupac. ATL, Georgia, state number 5. When it's time to ride, join the rebel side. Man, I ain't lying. The history coincide. You understand what I'm saying? Georgia went Confederate too. But Pac later will come Illuminati. Y'all talk all that dumbass Illuminati shit. Illuminati, nigga. You're not even the man if you're going to say white supremacy on fucking TV. How dare you, in this day and time, talk about white supremacy as if there is somebody superior to your God and the freedom that got your ass free and your ancestors free, and you ain't even living in that worst state condition, and you talking about white supremacy. You sound like a sucker. Sound like a bitch, man. Straight up. Real talk. Anyway, excuse my French, but you got to understand this shit is man talk. So women, when y'all, like, this is, my passion goes towards, because this shit is like, it's a direct assault against my manhood is how I feel at the end of the day. And maybe that's egotistical, but I'm standing on the principle of right. Shouldn't be enslaving nobody. Whether you black and got white slaves, that's bullshit, man. So anyway, I'm going to come off the gas with this. Because the only thing we got to do is study the Civil War. My G, how you pronounce his name? I don't want to mess his name up. Mason, or my son, killed the motherfucker with his free. Rapper from New York killed that shit. Murdered that shit. But I'm listening and I'm hearing things which are partial facts. You know, are 40 acres in the mule. I went to Twitter and I told them 40 acres in the mule. If I say 40 acres, you're going to say mule. And then I say, well, what is it? You're going to automatically say, man, the government was supposed to give niggas 40 acres in the damn mule after slavery. Everybody know that. That's not true. That's one of those things. It's a partial truth. It's an urban legend. But it's not true. 40 acres in the mule come from Special Field Order number 15, written by my general from Ohio, William T. Sherman, who says, okay, he has a meeting with some slaves and some freemen, and they pick the pastor to speak for him and said, this is what we want to do. We're going to set up our own shit, man. Y'all done came through. Y'all done beat the Confederates' ass. Ain't no Confederates around here no more. All this land and these houses is empty that we've been tilling anyway. We want some of this. So he wrote an order, Special Field Order number 15, that basically says that the land from South Carolina on the coastline, Georgia, and Florida should be divided up not to exceed more than 40 acres. The word mule is not even in the freaking field order. It's not there, okay? You can go read the official field order. I ain't talking wiki. Go study the art of war, man. Study these cats' memoirs of what was going on. So for any coon-ass nigga gonna come just for the sake of trying to sound deep and want to say, well, they really ain't want to free us. They just did it as if it was some type of trick, or try to underplay that for any reason whatsoever, that person is in gross error. And when you're dealing with law, like you want to pick a jury, if we can see any flaw in your thinking, you're not qualified to talk about this. You disqualified. We got to select better. You understand what I'm saying? Because yet you're going to tell me it's not about slavery, but then when I'm reading these memoirs and shit, this shit is about slavery. It's bogus, man. It's absolutely bogus. So here's the kicker, and I'm going to come off with this, man. Because I said the United States of America is not 100% off the hook. This is what happened. See, let's rewind a little bit. You hear, like Jay just dropped and what is free. 3/5, I believe, is the phrase. And that's another partial truth. It's like, well, the United States government said we only 3/5 of a human being, and that ain't right. The United States, man, listen. That comes from what's known as the Constitutional Convention. You got to understand something. The country is officially the United States of America in, some say 1776 at the Declaration, 1783. That's when King George from England says, listen, I ain't fucking with y'all no more. We've been fighting for years. Y'all won. I give up. Fuck it. Go ahead. Be your own shit. 1783 Treaty of Paris, nigga. Shout out to Jay. Shout out to Ye. Niggas in Paris. Y'all gotta see spirit, man. So anyway, it's official then. 4 years later, 1787, is the Constitutional Convention known as the Philadelphia Convention. They're having their meeting, and we're going to talk about setting up the new Constitution and the new law. In that meeting, they said there will be no slaves. The South gets pissed and say, what are you talking about? We ain't going to have no slaves. South Carolina, Virginia, and what are you talking about? We need slaves. Well, listen, in 20 years, you ain't going to be able to import slaves and bring them in from Africa, and you ain't going to be sending them out. That shit's bogus. We got to wrap this shit up. This is a new country found on new ideals and principles of liberty and freedom. Hence, Abe Lincoln used the very same argument and won that shit physically through war and through an election, through debates, obviously, because he became president. Okay? Know this shit. Okay? So, inside of that debate, it ain't going to be no slaves. This shit gets so thick that the South says, okay, we gotta work something out. And then the 3/5 compromise was given. See, how can you say in one breath, America wants to demean the Negro or the black man on purpose and making 3/5, but in the same conversation where the 3/5 was created in Philadelphia, Constitutional Convention, they're saying it ain't gonna be no more slaves. That don't make sense. You understand what I'm saying? They're saying no slaves, but then they want to make you 3/5. That is the South trying to hold on to their power and their slaves. The South will later break away from America. They'll break away from the red, white, and blue, which is the Crip and the blood. Okay? Which is the white is just the peace between us so we can unify and do our shit. Shout out to Nipsey. Shout out to YG. You got to see spirit. You understand what I'm saying? Shout out to Game. Shout out to Snoop. This is what this shit is about. We got our shit aimed at the wrong person. You can't aim it at yourself, cuz. You can't aim it at yourself, blood. You can't. That's you. This is you. This is us. This Abe Lincoln. This is us. Kanye is showing you, when he had the jacket with the Confederate shit on, he's telling you where to aim the shit at. Y'all don't get... Listen to this. Watch the spirit. Kanye West went to a freaking high school called Polaris. Polaris is actually the North Star that the slaves watch to become free and follow that night to go up north and become free. And Kanye West names his baby North. This is spirit talking. This is God talking. Y'all all act like y'all fucking know God or in love with God or appreciate God, but it's like y'all don't really believe that shit at the heart. You don't. And yeah, I'm going to say the F-bomb with God as if God don't know you listen to trap music and you turning it down when you pulling up in the church and you about to light up a blunt as soon as you get out the parking lot. Fuck out of here, man. Tired of playing games and muting myself for this shit. Anyway, the real deal is you got Confederates and you got the United States government. So the 3/5 shit is mute. Throw that shit out the window. That's the slave boys. Dre Scott, 1857, in the thick of bleeding Kansas. 1857, Dre Scott. Well, what about Dre Scott and niggas can't be slaves? Listen, man, there was a vote. What was it? 7-2. 7-2 that Dre Scott is not a nigga. 2 people said, Dre Scott is not a citizen. 2 people said that's bogus. That's one from Ohio again. Ohio is the illest. The general who was the head of the whole army for the United States government under Abe Lincoln when the Confederates folded was your General Ulysses Grant, known as President Grant, that's on a $50 bill. Shout out to 50 on the Stars Network. The Stars, 50 stars. Grant, 50 cents. Y'all gotta see spirit, man. Everybody is just minions of God down here, and you gotta know what the story is telling you. Everybody is a minion of God down here. Everybody's playing their part. Okay? So, where's I at here? Anyway, and so, totally lost my point. Oh, Dre Scott. 7-2 vote. We only need 3 to have the majority. Because then it would be 5-4. Okay, so we just need 3 to have the majority. We got 2. One from Ohio voted. Dre Scott is a citizen. You bugging. Another one who voted, he's the only judge to walk away from the Supreme Court and quit on the grounds of morality. He was like, man, this Supreme Court shit is so bogus. Y'all so racist. I quit. The only person to ever do that as a Supreme Court judge. Go look into it. So now let's just go look at 3 judges who voted against Dre Scott. Chief Judge Robert Taney, fuck you and everything you stand on. Clear racist, born into a slave-holding family. Facts. Another one, who is it? What's his name? Another judge, his name is slipping me at the time. He had slaves in Tennessee. Okay? He's actually sleeping with one of his slaves and had children by her, but I ain't gonna knock the interracial thing. We know you wanted that black pootie tang. It's all good. We do too. All right? So I ain't gonna knock it, but he was a slaveholder in Tennessee. Because that was Catron. Catron. Okay? And I want to say his name ain't Campbell, but it's another judge on there where he, at the start of the Civil War, 1861, this cracker said, I don't want to be a judge no more. I'm about to go fight for the Confederates. The Supreme Court, the buck stops here. Like, they get the last say-so. That's really, they supreme for real. They over the president, in my view. They get the last say-so on what's what. You can do what you want to do after that, but we telling you that this is what it is, and there ain't going to be nothing else said about it. You can do it, but ain't nothing else going to be said about it. Okay? He stops being a Supreme Court judge and joins the Confederate Army. So there go 3 votes right there that we could have had what Dred Scott could have won. Chief Judge Taney, slaveholder family. Catron, slaveholder himself. And another one, he goes and joined the Confederate Army. These are Confederates inside of the United States government, which leads me to my closing argument of why the United States is not off the hook. We got a serious problem in America, man. The biggest threat to America, democracy, and the republic ain't from anybody overseas. It's from racism within. And racism within took its ugliest form through the Civil War, known as the Confederates. Okay? Now, when the Confederates got that ass beat and they finally gave up in April of 65, okay? When they gave up in April of 65, guess who was born in 1865? The first Ku Klux Klan, okay? Which later became Jim Crow in the 1900s. And then Jim Crow all the way up to 100 years after 1865 is 1965. Martin Luther King, salute to the king. He's dead in 68, so that's 103 years after the Civil War, all the way up to King. So the Confederates are fighting back through Jim Crow and laws. We didn't stop them from coming in government. We still allowed them to come into government. Confederate Lieutenant General James Longstreet, who was riding with Robert Lee, conflicted soul, okay? I'll explain that in a whole nother thing. After the Civil War, he gets a job inside of the United States government down in Louisiana to be inspector of customs or some shit. Him and Grant they was friends. All of them was friends and fighting in the American-Mexican War before the Civil War. They was all fighting together. And then the Civil War came, they broke up, and friends started fighting friends upon principle of slavery, man. That's just the facts, Jack. So the problem that we have is Confederates, i.e. Mississippi, fuck you. Shout out to David Banner. That's why you see when he come out with the Confederate flag. Because Mississippi still got the Confederate flag in their state flag in the upper left-hand corner. You're an enemy combatant to the United States of America, and that's treason. At the time of the Civil War, you can't fly no Confederate nothing. You can have a memorial that's owned by the government, but at a place of government where you write laws and shit on city, in county level, city level, state level, no form of government where law is created and enforced or protected as courtrooms should a Confederate flag be at. Period. You can have a memorial, fine, I understand that. But a place of government, that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. Because you're telling me that that's a symbol. Flags are very important in war. We know that shit through culture, but through war too, right? Like, that's very important. You're really signaling for future generations of Confederates to get back in power. And that's going to be dangerous, man. That's very dangerous. Very dangerous. You can have y'all memorials, you know what I'm saying? But the Kamala Harris's and Cory Booker's and, salute to the first black attorney general, Eric Holder. Salute to the Union soldier. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey man, this is a serious offense right here. Serious offense. Confederate flag and KKK behavior. All right, so we back, man. So let's continue that. What I'm saying is, no level of government, man. Mississippi is out of pocket. And it was this, Mississippi is out of pocket because they have the Confederate flag in their state flag up in the upper left-hand corner. They were the second state to leave the Union. Like, they wasn't rocking with the United States of America when Abe Lincoln became president. So South Carolina went out. I be telling y'all cats, y'all want your top 5? Who the best 5 MCs? You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Jada. Top 5 dead or alive. You know what I mean? But your top 5 Confederate states is South Carolina at the point guard. At the shooting guard is Mississippi, number 2. Number 3 at the small forward is Florida. Number 4 at the power forward is big Alabama. And 5 at center is Georgia. 6th man off the bench is Louisiana. And the 7th man is Texas. All right? Them your first 7. All right? They went Confederate. Like, nah, we ain't rocking with this cat named Abe Lincoln because I think he's really going to try to put an end to slaves. So you got to remember when you know the history, like I said, back in 1787, the country is only 4 years old. Or so in 1787, they like, listen, I'm ain't going to be no more slaves. All right? And that, it stops too. It literally, like, the importation of bringing slaves in and taking slaves out, that stops. Nobody ever tells us in 1819, 1820, the United States government creates a Navy fleet called the African Squadron. And they're out in the Atlantic Ocean patrolling the west coast of Africa and also patrolling Brazil, where a lot of slaves were taken. And they're making sure nobody is bringing slaves across these waters. United States Navy is doing this, making sure that this slavery shit stops, called the African Squadron. Nobody talks about this. This was a change of power, okay? And so, to fly the Confederate flag now, Mississippi, is very treasonous. They're the second state that left the Union. And for the Cory Bookers, the Kamala Harrises, the Eric Holders, and, you know, Donald Trump, even if he rerun any president, Confederate behavior and flags is very serious, man. It is very serious. That should be the number one priority, because history shows us that this country is said to have lost more soldiers in that war than any other war ever. And some say combined. It's facts, okay? So that's what I was speaking on that. So let's backtrack a little bit, because I told you with the Dred Scott case, that was Confederate judges inside of the Supreme Court. And that judge name was Campbell, okay? Like Campbell soup, all right? So Judge Campbell, he left at the start of the Civil War and became a Confederate and fought in the war. And this was a judge who voted against Dred Scott, okay? And like I said, Controne and Taney slave family and Controne had slaves in Tennessee. And so they cannot be a reflection, and they are not a reflection of the American ideals and principles of liberty and freedom. They're not. They were Confederates, okay? And we got to know that. So now this brings us into a very, very touchy situation or topic called reparations, right? And we say the United States government owes. The United States government has been infiltrated. So you gotta really pay attention to the chronology of events, the timeline. This is important. 1783 Treaty of Paris, King George gives up, and he says, I'm not fighting y'all no more. I've been fighting y'all for 7 years now? Like, I give up. I'm not fighting y'all no more. This is enough. The United States can finally celebrate Treaty in Paris, okay? We are our own country. We ain't got to fight to prove that no more. We established that through knuckling up, all right? And so, again, 4 years later, Constitutional Convention in Philly, they're told ain't no slaves gonna pop off. So somebody's working on your behalf. The person that's working on your behalf, man, is the United States government that's working on your behalf. I gotta tell you that. The real takeover, man, was to end slavery. The real Illuminati are the Quakers, the Society of Friends, the ones who were always against the modern day institution to overthrow the slave holding government of that time, known as the 13 colonies. The new evolved United States of America is not the 13 colonies. United States of America wants to get rid of slavery. You dig? But you still got those ideologies in there. So you got to remember, in the art of war, you're trying to go to war without having to go to war. Nobody wants to go to war. That's why I tell you, just look at yourself. Rodney King get the brakes beat off of him. The best you're going to do is go burn buildings and tip over police cars and burn stuff. You ain't going to put no work in and go to a civil war. You ain't built that way. Okay? And rightfully so. I'm going to keep saying that. But I got to remind you, because niggas think they tough. But shout out to Thugger, Young Thug. And I got to say that because Young Thug comes in and he waters down the perception of what we thought a thug to be. Put a dress on, nigga. You understand what I'm saying? Because all of us as men, pussy, if we gonna walk around here talk about white supremacy and this white people dominating us and we ain't getting this and doing that and we ain't knuckling up. So that's why I'm saying shout out to Thugger. You gotta understand, everybody playing their part. Everybody's a minion of God down here. All right? So, to this reparations angle, United States government is on the record as being the only flag to come get us. I'm sorry. No African nation came and interceded on our behalf as slaves and came and got us up out that situation. We had no international help. No European countries came. No Caribbean countries, from Jamaica, from Haiti. Like, nobody came. We didn't have one big-ass successful slave rebellion. That's how we got free, like our brethren, like in Haiti did. That's not our story. This flag right here is the one that came. All right? And it came very cleverly. Very cleverly. So do United States owe reparations? United States is wrong on some things for being infiltrated, for not absolutely At the death of Abraham Lincoln, his vice president, Andrew Johnson, that's who you really got a beef with. If you think you got a beef with Lincoln, come see me, holler at me. I'll debate anybody on that. Hands down. All right? You got a beef with Andrew Johnson, who came after Lincoln was assassinated and got rid of and rescinded Special Field Order number 15, your 40 acres. Again, the mule wasn't in there, but we're going to say it since you know it. He got rid of your 40 acres in the mule. You did. The Freedmen's Bureau that was established by Abe Lincoln to help the newly free slaves transition into society and protect them. All right. And to make sure we get straight and get on our feet. Andrew Johnson rescinds that, cuts it. He gives the former Confederates, because they coming back home, and they're like, yo, I got the title to this. My great-granddaddy had this land. And we got Special Field Order number 15. So it's almost like Civil War Part 2. And this is sticky, man. This is a real sticky situation. So it's just, what do you do? Because you don't want to go to war. Nobody wants war. You understand what I'm saying? So here's who owe you reparations. It's clear. It is the Confederate States of the South. They had slaves. They didn't, like Vermont said, listen, slavery, we done like, and I think Vermont was like 1778, right? Early, like in the 1700s. Vermont was like, man, we ain't with that shit. That shit's bogus. All right? Like, so the states that wanted slavery so bad and left and formed their own thing and went against the United States of America, they are the ones. So if the United States government wants to come in and say, hey, listen, all these southern states right here who was in rebellion against the United States of America, this is your federal budget. 20%, 30%, 10%, whatever it is, X amount of percent of your federal budget is now about to be cut because we're going to allocate this towards this reparations package. And then the people itself still have to come and figure out what that is, what that look like. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, this ain't rocket science, man, which brings us to the solution to this thing. Because Killer Mike was talking about, if you listen closely, man, dude got barbershops, dude on the whole block. Dude is into real estate. Shout out to Envy. I follow DJ Envy too because he's a freaking, like the best dad I ever seen in my life. He like teaches me by what I'm watching him. Envy on that, fatherhood, entrepreneur, and real estate ventures, man. Crushing the game. Crushing it. There's a urban renaissance that is taking place in America. Okay, Donald Trump knows it. He calls it opportunity zones. And anywhere in America, your state had to pretty much say these counties and these areas are the urban zones. And what happens is you now can invest in these areas with real estate and businesses. And if you keep flipping in these areas in 5 years, keep on going for 5 years, the federal government say, hey man, I will only charge you 10% on the tax. People are paying 35% in the 30-something percent when they get in capital gains off of real estate. The average flip for a house is around $65,000. All right. So even when you pay $60,000, when you got $60,000 in capital gains, 30% of $60,000 is 18 racks that you about to get to Uncle Sam. So instead of giving up 18 racks in 5 years, Uncle Sam said, listen, man, I just want 10%. Let me get 6,000. You see what I'm saying? In 7 years, we only want 5%. If you can keep reinvesting in your neighborhood and do your thing, then in 10 years, I don't want nothing. Good looking because you're helping us out. And Killer Mike said something else that was crucial. He was talking about how the older generations who had businesses in the black community, the new generation, us, like we didn't step into those roles. So all these vacancies that we see in Gary, Indiana, all those empty storefronts in Chicago, everywhere in America, Detroit, like that's because we didn't pick up the torch and say, yo, let's step up into this and create this business and make sure that we got this thing popping. You see what I'm saying? So we didn't step up in that role. You can't blame nobody for that, man. You can't. You cannot. Okay? So again, we have to determine what the solution is. And part of the solution is, shout out to Ross, man. the boss, the Aquarius. You dig? Aquarius is some of the illest revolutionaries. I must say it. Abraham Lincoln. I must say Bob Marley. I must say Huey P. Newton. I mean, iconics, right? This is the Aquarian age. It's about freedom. I mean, this is very interesting when you really understand this time and space that we live in. We're in the age of Aquarius. It's about freedom. Abraham Lincoln is the Aquarius, and then he happens to be the one that is the catalyst for this newfound freedom that we have. You can't make this up, man. All right? And so we got to buy back the block, like Ross said. We got to get into real estate. We got to get in business ventures, and we got to buy it up. Urban America is cheap. This is why Magic Johnson, salute to Magic. Magic Johnson is super duper successful because what? He invested in the Baldwin Hills black community of Los Angeles, California. He starts off with a movie theater, okay? And then he raises more money. He goes to CalPERS, the California Public Employment Retirement System. He asked them for, what was it, like $50 million. 4 times in a row, they tell him no, 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 no. And then the last time they say, all right, instead of 50, we give you 20. Then he go buy a shopping mall. And then the shopping plaza is about half filled or 80% filled. He get it to 100% vacancy. Occupancy, fills it up. And then he sells the mall for like 48 racks, 48 million. Take that back to CalPERS, then they give him more money. The bank told him no 10 times, 9 times in a row. This 10th one they gave him, like, read up on Magic Johnson's history, man, his story. Got an excellent book like The 32 Ways of Business or something like that. You need to read that. All right, we need to get in this economic game. We need to buy back the block, man. Because like Killer Mike was saying, we got the chains, we got the fly whips and stuff. But shit, like, where's the property? Where's the businesses? And so when you see Ross coming and it's Wingstop and it's, it's Rallies or Checkers and, Jaywood, all these business brands, Nick doing his thing. That's what it's about. And guess what? Nobody's stopping and stepping to AE40. You can't have your own wine, partner. You can't do that because we white America. Nobody's stopping you. We don't live in that time. And guess what? If they do, my question is, where's our balls? For real talk as men. And that's Confederate behavior. We need to draw that out. So you want to come against us and what we doing? Man, listen, man, y'all better go read very, very, very closely what the Emancipation Proclamation states, man, that the United States military and Navy shall support us and protect us in our process of freedom. The United States government is on your side. Has it been infiltrated at times? Hell yeah, just prove that with the Supreme Court ruling against Dred Scott. It's this, y'all call it Democrat, Republican. All that. It's Confederate or Union, period. That's the only 2 colors I'm seeing, man. I ain't seeing blood. I ain't seeing Crip. I ain't seeing folk. I ain't seeing Lord. I ain't seeing white and black. I'm seeing Union or Confederate. So Confederate is an enemy to anything that I have, encroaching on my freedom, right? A Union, man, it's all about the love, man. How can I help you? How can we help each other? You did? And that's what it has to be about. Them the only 2 colors that we need to know is behavior. Nature knows no color line, man. Dig this. Shout out to Meek Millie. Shout out to what's his name? Michael Rubin. Who's stopping Meek Mill from politicking with a billionaire who flies a helicopter in when Meek get out and they fly up, get up out and go to the damn game, and now they're creating their own organization to help with criminal justice reform. Did anybody come in here and say, I'm going to kill you? You ain't going to do that. No, you're not going to do that, nigga. At one point in time, that was there. But I'm telling you, it's a new day. And again, somebody step out of pocket, man, smack them. You know what I'm saying? I mean saying physically, I'm saying you gotta know how to play this thing called the art of war. All right? Last but not least, I wanted to go somewhere with this thing because, like this fight back, this kickback is very real. You got Black Wall Street, brother. Again, KKK Confederate behavior. Confederates won in that time and era. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to say that they won't do something in 2019, 2020 and get away with it and win. There's a battle here between the Confederate States still and the United States of America. We need to be very clear on this, man. We need to be very, very, very clear in any level of government as is, because this is now the United States government. It needs to put that shit in a box and can it, man. It needs to can it. You dig? So our levels of success, man, is going to come through economics. You know, we should be happy that, you know, watch this, man. It baffles me how we miss stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, man, these companies are creating private prisons and you know, and they say it in a way that is bad. Man, that's a good thing if we build our own prison. How about that? Since it's not a government thing and the government saying no private companies can have it, we, the government, shall always have dominion over prisons. Man, if this about a corporation, you mean to tell me that we can't go by an old facility and say, hey, we want people to start being housed here, and we're gonna start, we can buy our own prison, man. I don't get it. Like, everybody walk around all tough and tight, scared of your own people, rightfully so, and everybody got bodyguards and shit because you're scared of your own people. And I understand, it's called the Malcolm X syndrome. Nigga, get your hand out of my pocket. All right? So that's what it was, to trigger my thought. What I'm saying, when you make a power move, when the United States government is actually, where Abe Lincoln said the military protects you, Martin Luther King demonstrated this no other. And I ended with that. And the way that he did this was, because, you know, me coming up, like, yo, shit, I'm Huey P. Our birthday is like, you be there. Like, I'm like, I don't understand that nonviolent thing. That's stupid to me. You know, right to bear arms. Let's go in the state house, shut that shit down like they did out in California. You know what I'm saying? But Martin's approach made the Confederate strike first. And when you can make somebody else strike first, you really got all rights to whip ass at this particular point, right? Uncontested. You see what I'm saying? So it was kind of like bullying, because how you gonna hit Martin? Like, it ain't like Martin was talking about like Malcolm at the front door or at the window with the rifle. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, hit me, I'm hitting you back. It's on. You know what I mean? Like, nah, this was something else. So anyway, Martin Luther King, we used to have these meetings with the Freedom Riders and whatnot. The KKK used to be outside of the churches threatening them. And the National Guard used to have to come through. And the National Guard will come through as a checkmate to the KKK. In other words, the National Guard was there to beat the living shit out of the KKK had they got out of pocket and attacked Martin Luther King and the Freedom Riders. So at this time, I got to salute another Union soldier. General Henry Graham is the general who comes and he tells Alabama Governor George Wallace, Alabama is the last school to desegregate. George, known as the Standing Door Incident. George Wallace is at the door and like, shit, I don't care what JFK say. We ain't letting no niggas in this school. Nope, ain't happening. And so Vivian Malone and James Hood gets accepted in the school. Kennedy basically tells him, like, stand down. Wallace, like, I ain't not bump this. So you think about this. This Alabama, city cops, county, state is all on the Alabama side, because Alabama is fourth to leave the United States of America and form the Confederacy. It's the last state to desegregate. So they ready for Civil War Part 2. So Robert Kennedy, see, this is why for black folks, it's the reason why your grandparents had JFK with Martin Luther King inside of their, you know, pictures in the house and shit. Because JFK gives the call to his brother, who's the Attorney General. Okay? The Attorney General is shit. He's the man. He can take, if the United States got a problem with anybody in court, the Attorney General is the one to prove why they got a problem with them. So this is the head law enforcement officer of the entire land, the Attorney General. Bobby Kennedy says, I tell you what, I'm gonna get on the phone, called up Henry Graham, the general of the United States National Guard in Alabama. Graham, I'm gonna need you to go down there and tell Wallace, you better get the hell out the way. So Henry Graham go down there, sir. It is I'm sorry, I have to inform you. by the order of the President of the United States and Attorney General, you're being asked to move. You got a choice. Either if you don't move, it's about to be Civil War II if y'all think y'all about to bust a move. Cowards, just like the Confederates are. They cowards, man. They bow down every single time. Got out the way. Vivian Malone, James Hood is now inside of Alabama University. And this is interesting. You got to watch Spirit on this because that's way back when. Vivian Malone is sister of Sharon Malone. Sharon Malone marries our first black attorney general ever, Eric Holder, who was on the Breakfast Club. You dig? So he's married. Like, you got to understand the attorney general and that family going through that struggle and making history. He marries into that history, and then he makes history by being the first black attorney general. Y'all gotta understand this. This is why they was mad at him. But I felt it. Another Aquarius too. And he's like, United States is a nation of cowards when it comes to race relations. White folks did not like Eric Holder and Barack Obama. Eric Holder would tell you. They used to give him like those sideways, probably threats, and be like, we can't wait to get our country back. So there's an intense battle between Confederate ideologies. And I'm going to tell you something. Like H.K. Egerton, there's a black Confederate. Like, you got people's mindsets literally are black Confederates, man. Even though you think you're a United States citizen and you a gangster and all that shit, your actions and your mindset is Confederate-like behavior. But you really got a black dude out here, and when South Carolina, shout out to Bree Newsom, in 2015 scaled the pole, took down the flag, then South Carolina took the flag down, the Confederate flag. You had a black dude there dressed in a Confederate uniform saluting the flag. You had black Confederates that would justify that, you know, whatever, for whatever reason they want to be. And I'm just going to say this, man. You can justify all you want to, Jack. Harriet Tubman would have shot you. She was that type. Like, you going to stay here under these conditions and fight with them? That's crazy. Anyway, the solution, man, get into economics, man. Start buying up prison industrial complexes yourselves. It's no reason why a platform as big as the Nation of Islam can't provide the security inside of those kind of situations. We just entirely too smart as a people, as a global people. Major corporations are clearly behind us in endorsements and things of that nature. We have to be clear on what that agenda is. And shout out to Nori, my guy, man. Nori keeps hinting to this in these Dream Champ podcasts that won't we form the hip hop party or whatever you're gonna name it. But you need to form some type of agenda where you have an in-house election on who you're going to have to be the representatives. What you do is just you copy and paste, right? You say, okay, we got representatives, we got Senate members, and we got people who are economists in a sense and whatnot, and everybody pick your respective posts in the sense of what we need to do and agree that this is the name of it. Like I'm going to come off of it, man. I am. Like, you may call it the Lincoln Party, man, like, or the Union, whatever. But I'm going to say this, that it is very disrespectful and it's very selfish. I don't know of it, and if I don't know of it and it exists, then that means I'm very ignorant, and that could be. And I'll own up to that if it be the case. But we have failed as black folks, particularly, to have a grand recognition and thank you to Abraham Lincoln for putting his life on the line. The things that he stood for and said in his debates totally against slavery. If you can't see it, come holler at me. I'll show you. April 9th, General Lee surrenders. April 14th, April 15th, Abraham Lincoln is dead. A week later, he's dead. Shot in the dome. Pow. He doesn't even live to see all of the Confederate troops, Joe Johnston and his troops, surrender to my war general, William T. Sherman. He don't even get to live to see all Confederate troops surrender. The following month, May 23rd, he don't even get to see the march of all of the Union armies in D.C. celebrating that the war is over. Abraham Lincoln is dead 1 week after the main war general, Robert E. Lee, surrenders. It is very ungrateful. It is very wrong. It is a crime that we have not, as a people, had. Like, we can have BET awards. I ain't knocking nobody. We can have Grammys. We can have all of these awards, and we can do it every single year in order for us to spiritually move forward in the physical, because the spirit is like breath. It's invisible, but it animates the physical consciousness, the mystic chords of memory, as Abraham Lincoln puts it. This connection that we have, okay? We have to acknowledge that so we can move forward in the physical. And understanding those principles, understanding the last piece of history, the last critical part of how we got out of our worst situation, and continuing from that point, along with all the greats that come after that, the kings and whoever else, right? We got to get this thing tight, and we got to get it right, man. It is our obligation to make America great. You ain't got to say, when was it? Make it again. Okay, I ain't with that. But it's our obligation. Don't nobody want to live poor. Don't nobody want to live mediocre. Don't nobody want to just be average. We should want to be great. It's our obligation to make it great. And we need to start with the respect and paying that homage to Abe Lincoln, because that's going to open up a spiritual vortex that's going to create a more physical success for us as a people. And it's the right thing to do in the eyes of God, since you say you believe. Okay? So with that, I'm going to conclude. I thank you for listening. Great interview, Killer Mike. You killed it. You laced it, man. Hey, man, y'all look at the look at the symbolism of some of these cats real fast, man. You know, when you look at Kanye West, again, I mean, like, really pay attention to this, man. Kanye West goes to a high school called Polaris, and then Polaris is the same star, the North Star that the ancestors are following to get free. It is in it's in the constellation, the Little Dipper, that looks like the little bear. And then Kanye West also comes out with the teddy bear. The bear was always on his album cover and stuff. And then he names his baby North. He's getting transmissions from God. Everybody is God's minion. This is why Kanye West later comes out and he has the Confederate flag on his thing. Y'all laymen and y'all don't understand it, and y'all get emotional. Emotional means, in this sense, that you lose logical control of conscious function and you just react, because that symbol triggers a post-traumatic slave gene that you have inside of your DNA. And I understand it, okay? But you can't lose conscious control, because then we call that emotional, right? And usually we say women are that. But now, as men, and I'm talking to men, now you're being like a woman. You got to keep conscious control. So Kanye West comes and he shows that. Then Kanye West and Jay-Z do Niggas in Paris. That whole theme is United States flag and colors, right? The Treaty of Paris is how United States of America gets its independence. And on their mind, I told you at the very first meeting, they're saying slavery will end. We're going to stop this. So then you got Watch the Throne, Niggas in Paris. That's the United States theme. We can speed it up to Snoop and Game. You know, they like, listen, we about to go down to the LAPD. We need to have a conversation, because this shit's ridiculous. So now you got Blood and Crip, the red and the blue, coming together. The white just simply means it's a peace treaty, bro. We clean. We cleaning up. You understand what I'm saying? So we cleaning up. You know how it is, all white everything. You know what it is, right? So we cleaning up. So that's Game and Snoop, which now comes to a younger generation. Man, these niggas is my homies. These my icons right here. Nipsey Hussle and YG. And Nipsey got business game like a motherfucker. Look, Nipsey and YG, Blood and Crip, doing their thing. Again, that's that red, white, and blue. That's us. You see what I'm saying? That's Abe Lincoln. This is us. You did? So we gotta understand how spirit is moving us in the groove of unison and continue to build. All right? So with that, man, I'm done. You got a comment, a question, man, feel free. Call me, 267-403-4078. Salute. Hey, we have no right to complain when we ourselves as men, women, community did not fix the infrastructure of the water in Flint, Michigan. So don't play gangster. Don't be talking and complaining about nothing else where we easily could have raised the money ourselves $1, even less than that, and put the call out to raise the money, hire the firm that was going to do it, and make sure that we took care of the people. So we got to stop all this pump faking and keep it real. Peace.
Hey, shout out to my nigga Show Dog, man. I remember this growing up. Hey, shout out to all my Cali niggas and fuck you white Confederate KKK motherfuckers. Biatch, fuck Confederates. Fuck Confederates. Come on. Fuck Confederates. Pussies, fuck Confederates. Biatch, fuck Confederates. Fuck Confederates. Fuck Confederates. Fuck Confederates. Pussies. Mississippi, you gon' take your flag down. David Duke, when I see you, that's a beat down. Banana clips, and I'm spraying like 100 rounds. That's heat for your ass, cause it's going down. Shout out Selly, niggas from the hillside. That's the west side, take you where Pac ride. Huey Newton, we strapped and we shootin'. That's a Black Panther shotgun, Cam Newton. What you doing? I represent the Union. That's Abe Lincoln, Confederates got ruined. Red, white, and blue and Crip walking Suwooin'. Nipsey Hussle, YG, smoke 'em like a Cuban. Beefing up, niggas and institutions. Gang unity, that's the solution. Abolitionists wrote the resolution. Black excellence spells revolution. Get it? Hashtag Black excellence. Revolt TV Diddy. Billy, try that Black Wall Street shit again and watch we hit you with the 9 milli. Free Meat Millie, Uncle Tom Judge acting silly. Fuck Confederates. Fuck Confederates. Come on. Fuck Confederates. Pussies. Fuck Confederates.